or our family's secret sauce. We all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/teamup.
When people are fed, futures are nourished. They can connect with the world around them, unlock endless possibilities, and thrive. Join the movement to end hunger. Volunteer. Advocate. Donate. Go to feedingamerica.org/actnow.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 6.
Well, hello there, Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. Welcome into Mississippi Live Weather at 6 on what has largely been a cloudy Tuesday. We are tracking what should be, I think, gradually increasing temperatures into the forecast. But those clouds have lingered pretty nicely today, and I think maybe some folks are hoping that those, I'm describing it as pesky clouds. But that cloud cover could be another factor again for tomorrow, and maybe it's a rewarding thing. Certainly is helping out on that electric bill at the Lawpon house, probably in your case as well. Plan on a higher water bill, though, as we look into the next week to 2 weeks. There's not a lot of rain chances there of real significance. The pattern is stuck dry, despite the fact we've had cloud cover, and that at least represents some moisture out there. We're hotter by this upcoming weekend than we were last weekend, and certainly will be much of this week as those heat indices, 100 plus, those are coming back on a fairly widespread scale. As it is August, after all, you can't expect this kind of weather to last too terribly long. Of course, welcome in here to the room-to-room weather center on what is a partly cloudy shot here. One of our cooler locations still at this hour on our Mississippi, North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters camera there in Macon. We're 83 degrees at the current temperature. It feels like 86, and finally some blue starting to show up there, despite the fact that, again, the sun's still behind one of those clouds there, sort of in the foreground. The clouds really have kept temperatures down in many spots. 8 to 10, breaking free of those clouds in the last couple of hours. That heat index up to 88 there, 82 current temperature as we are clear on the northwest side there of Starkville, looking back toward the west. Those winds a little breezier at 10 miles per hour, but where you've been sunny much of the day, still have some of those clouds. It does look like we have a fire of some sort out there in the I guess, background showing up there with a little bit of smoke, and also kind of a perfectly timed cloud over top of that. This is not a pyrocumulus cloud here, despite the fact that you have the fire, the smoke there, and the cumulus cloud. Those are two separate things, but kind of a cool shot nonetheless as we look out there. 102 what it feels like in Rolling Fork, and a sign that where it is clearer and has been clearer, still just as much summer feeling as you would typically expect. 92 the temperature there on those northwest winds at about 9 miles per hour. So the temperature 80 for 7 p.m. on the average. Again, some spots we're going to be hotter than that. If you're in the Delta, you're in that demographic. We're 75 degrees at 10 p.m., 72 as we look toward 1 o'clock in the morning, and then somewhere around upper 60s to very low 70s to begin the first part of your Wednesday morning on what should be dry conditions. The 24-hour temperature change here, we're up about 10 degrees from yesterday at this time from many spots. Again, that cloud cover has broken, and that remains probably our biggest weather challenge for our Wednesday forecast. Does the cloud cover build back in? Yes. But how long does it last? It's lasted all day the last 2 days. That's what's helped to keep us in these lower 80s, way below a normal of the lower 90s for this time of year for locations near the Mississippi-Alabama state line. So while the cloud cover builds back in, will it do it as fully and as long? Probably not. But for some locations, I think we're still 80s for highs for tomorrow. As a result, the 90s back by Thursday. On the wide shot here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar, we are fairly dry. We do have some rain chances out there into Alabama, South Mississippi, as well as down into Louisiana associated with this trough of low pressure that we have down that direction there. Nearest front, way up there into the plains. There is, in fact, a tornado watch for locations back up that direction, but of course a non-issue for our area because the jet stream's stronger up there, and that's one of the reasons why things aren't really moving around here is we don't have any strong jet stream in our overall pattern with where we're at here. And honestly, fairly clear conditions. What we have here is we essentially have two areas of high pressure that have split, or really it's maybe one area of high pressure that's split. You have the area back out here, huge ridge that we have out this direction here, and of course the clockwise flow around that, and then another one back out here into the Atlantic, again the clockwise flow around that. And so we find ourselves in this zone where we're not quite, and so this area where there's just not the same suppression of sinking air is the reason why we are clear and dry, but still have that cloud cover. So it's kind of the two things both coming in at the same time there. So it's bringing in just a little bit closer here on looking at our futurecast. And what you'll notice, fairly light winds, those clouds largely out into Alabama and Georgia. It's overdone how far east those have gone. We do expect those to build back in overnight, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. Some of those building in. And while, yes, this particular version of Futurecast tries to say, ooh, look, some showers, that is easily overdone versus what the reality of the situation will probably end up being, as most of us, again, most of the rain chances down south. There are no meaningful fronts that are going to get near us anytime soon. So even though we show a front back out there on the plains into the first part of tomorrow, that is never going to make it into our area. And as a result, we're just gradually day by day going to get a little bit hotter. So from upper 60s initially tomorrow morning, coming in 69 degrees, we're 79 by 9 a.m., 88 degrees by noontime, and 89 by 3 p.m. Rain coverage, 10% might be overdoing that just a little bit. Most of us are dry, and again, that's why we need to be thinking about watering ourselves ourselves watering the lawn, because Mother Nature is not going to be really helping us much with that. Near 90 degrees in the afternoon. Again, some locations, Mississippi Delta, we're above that 90-degree threshold. In 60 seconds, we're looking ahead at that. We're also going to be looking ahead toward the tropics, which are expected to get more active. Again, the peak of hurricane season is around September 10th. So we're now almost within a month of that, and it's been very quiet to this point. Your tropical update is ahead as Mississippi Live Weather at 6 continues right after this.
At Absolute Restoration, our team will feel magical since our focus is on serving you and your roofing needs. Finding a roofer who actually shows up and communicates, that's just one of the problems we solve by informing you of every step in the process.
Selling premium roofing systems backed by warranties and payment plans starting at just $99 per month. Trust Absolute Restoration to deliver.
Experience unicorn-level service and affordability from a team your community trusts. Call Absolute Restoration today.
Your family deserves the most beautiful smile possible. At Tupelo Smiles, we use precision dentistry and advanced technology to make visiting the dentist an amazing experience. Relationship-based comprehensive care. Come discover the difference at Tupelo Smiles.
Life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome. Prediabetes does. With early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test today. Go to doihaveprediabetes.org.
Right now, from the Mississippi Live Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lobheim.
Well, we truly do appreciate you tuning in and joining us on what is just a spectacular Tuesday afternoon. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lobheim, and you're watching Mississippi Live Weather at 6. The temperature 88 right now in Greenwood, mostly clear with only some puffy, flat cumulus clouds. Not a lot of vertical development. Always a sign that our atmosphere is stable. The dew point in Greenwood there, kind of the exception to the rule, but coming in the 60s, very pleasant for this time of year. I mean, a great shot there at this hour, despite the clearing that you've seen, obviously not quite as hot as what we had out there toward Rolling Fork. And we're 84 right now in the Tupelo area. Feels like 88 degrees. Again, just a mix of sort of clouds, but no precipitation. None that are going to come from any sort of clouds like that as our pattern. Again, we've worked to kind of break up those clouds from west to the east as the wind kind of works on the west edge of the clouds and gradually pushes them toward the east in this case. So it just mixes on the edge, and that mixing just took a while today. That's why it took a while to get those clear skies out there. We expect that cloud cover again fairly thick to begin the day, breaking up as we progress into your Wednesday. Your school bus forecast there at pickup around 71 degrees. So, I mean, typical of what we would expect for this time of year. Probably still short sleeves both afternoon as well as morning there. 89, that pickup temperature as they're dropping you off back there at home later on into the evening. Your hour forecast, 88 by noontime. And notice we still have that little bit of an easterly wind direction there. That's one of the components working to keep us dry. And despite the cloud cover, relatively clear of precipitation the next couple of days. Upper 80s, low 90s for highs tomorrow. We're 83 though in Tupelo right now, and 79 in Amory, 78 in Vernon, Alabama, as well as Hamilton, and 80 in Aliceville. Again, this is the effect of that cloud cover. You're talking more than a 10-degree difference from there versus Cleveland, versus Greenville, versus Belzona there. And so that difference from west to east because of the clouds, and that's why it's so important to see how far to the east those clouds end up forming for tonight, or really more how far to the west. So feels like 78 in Hamilton, yet feels like 92 in Greenville and Belzona. Of course, we're down from some of those heat indices were a lot higher a little bit earlier on. You don't have to go far south there. Rolling Fork right about there where it feels like closer to 100. So that overall stickiness factor, more manageable for a lot of us versus where it has been recently. Look at the latest here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. Only little showers that we are depicting back in kind of the northwest portion of the state, up there closer to South Haven and Hernando. This are a loop over the last hour and a half, 2 hours or so, just to come a few little spotty showers, but notice very little movement on these. So watching a couple of these for South Haven, make sure to have that app handy. But the vast majority of us, I mean, you look at the whole area once again, and you're talking the most of us are dry and no issues there as far as that is concerned into this evening. Looking at Futurecast here, again, it does have a couple of those pop-ups up there toward Memphis, says maybe one out there closer to Oakland and south of Batesville, generally toward around Charleston. Probably overdone on that, but as you saw, there were a couple out there, so not impossible. Water Valley, though, only some lingering clouds from that for you at around 10 o'clock for tonight. As we head toward midnight or so, mostly clear, mostly dry. Watch these clouds into Alabama trying to build back in from the east. It also depicts a couple isolated showers. You'll notice they're fairly light on our scale, so most of us not expected to pick up a whole lot of meaningful moisture from those. As we go into the low temperatures, again, low 70s out here. Cleveland for Belzona, about 69 degrees there for Grenada, your starting temperature. Bruce at 67, New Albany at 68, but we'll say 71 there for Columbus and 69 for Vernon. If we end up having a bit of that thicker cloud cover build in, it might hold a few of these temperatures, Red Bay, Hamilton, maybe even Iuka back there in the low 70s as well. So in general, pretty nice beginning to this time of year, about as nice as you can imagine. Certainly those low temperatures are going to come up more day by day going forward. So mainly dry initially, and you'll notice here into Alabama, you are in this zone where there's just that extra little bit of lift. And that's one of the kind of missing factors here on our rainfall, is that there's just not anything to get it going. But we do have this kind of weakness, and we talked earlier about that H out to the east and the one out to the west, both what we call mid-level ridges. We're in the area where that ridge, which you could argue extends all the way through this region, it just happens to be a little weaker over top of us. And that weakness is slightly greater out here into Alabama and Georgia and in the Carolinas. So that's why the rain coverage shows up a little bit more for some of those folks. But it's also part of the reason why those clouds keep trying to build in from the east. And so again, we're kind of in that zone where the cloud cover kind of building in as we progress into your Wednesday midday. Most of the rain chances were Laurel, Hattiesburg, Boletusha there, down there toward around Gulfport. More likely to see some rainfall closer to the coast. Again, the moisture is more significant there. And so that's why, I mean, comparatively speaking, south of Jackson, yeah, you're probably going to have some spotty showers. North Mississippi, probably not a good likelihood on your Wednesday into your Wednesday afternoon and evening. We probably are mainly dry. So rain chance, we'll say 10% or less. We're going to leave it off the 7-day forecast. We're 91 there in Cleveland, about 93 in Greenwood, 92 for high temperatures there in Grenada, 89 Starkville, Columbus, and Vernon, with your coolest temperatures near the Alabama state line, where that cloud cover could end up sticking around. Futurecast into your Wednesday evening, mostly dry, and again, probably clearer for the first part of Thursday, and that's part of the reason why I think we'll probably be closer to the 70-degree point on the average for low temperatures. So as we widen things a bit more, again, the overall pattern, and that's important here, does continue to show this system we have back out there for the plains, trying to get closer, but you see how it just falls apart into your Thursday. Again, no progression there, nothing that's really going to do an effective job of keeping us, bringing us any kind of meaningful cold front, or lift for that matter. So the majority of precipitation out here into the ocean, down into the Gulf, with only sporadic pop-up thunderstorms around the southeast. And you'll notice the movement on them still kind of that weird direction where they're kind of more out of a northeast to southwest sort of direction. And we do have the potential to maybe have a couple around our region on Thursday, but you'll notice even on this shot here, the vast majority of us are probably dry. So this is not what I would call meaningful rainfall because, again, if you're lucky enough to get under it, your neighbor probably isn't. So most of us are dry. As you progress into your Thursday night, again, staying mostly dry, mostly clear as well. Thursday's high temperatures going about 93 Grenada and Water Valley and Bruce, about 93 as well for Clarksdale, 95 Greenwood, Belzona, and 97 for Greenville, a sign that that heat is creeping back. And yeah, we're a lot cooler near the Alabama state line as that cloud cover, again, a little more spotty and slightly better rain chances there. So 93, we're going for Hamilton, 96, that heat index by your Thursday afternoon for Bruce. And yes, we're back up for more of us, upper 90s to near 100 for heat indices by Thursday. Wet bulb globe temperature increasing a bit as well. Luckily, even by that point, nobody in the extreme category, hopefully keep it that way again for Friday. Probably be more next week before we start to get closer to that threshold once again, and probably not to the level that we had it last week. So 7-day forecast, we're 88 for the high temperature on the average Wednesday, that cloud cover keeping a few of us a little cooler, 91 by Thursday, 92 for Friday, and then low 90s as we go towards Saturday, probably more mid 90s by Sunday. And that is where we start to see the pivot point back to more rain chances. Look at low temperatures back into the lower 70s. The combination of those two things helping us to, again, increase that humidity, that stickiness factor, and those heat indices back up to more of a dangerously hot category by the first part of next week. With low 90s, you're adding about 10 degrees to those, so heat indices over 100 and in some cases over 105, so more likely to possibly see some of those heat advisories by that point in time. Okay, coming up here in just a moment on Mississippi Live Weather at 6, we're looking at the tropics and we're kind of focusing in on Dexter, but there are a couple of other areas of interest that could develop into tropical systems. We'll have the very latest on where those are at and how they could progress as Mississippi Live Weather at 6 continues right after this.
Here is your opportunity to add 2 beautiful guns to your collection and support scouting. Scan the QR code to purchase your chance to win a Browning Citori 725 Sporting Maple over and under 12 gauge shotgun or a 75th anniversary Boy Scout commemorative Winchester Model 9422 rifle. Support the Natchez Trace Council Scouts with your raffle entries today.
As a nurse, I've seen a lot of people with sleep deprivation. It affects their job, their home life. At Room to Room, we want to take the guesswork out of buying a mattress, and that's why we brought in this technology. It shows you what you need. We want to do the assessment and find exactly what's perfect for you.
Welcome back to Mississippi Live Weather here at 6 o'clock. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lompon, and we are looking outside of our camera there in Caledonia at one of the more cloudy pictures versus what a lot of us are seeing. A little bit of a bounce there to the camera on those 7-mile-per-hour winds. You can see the difference there. It's 82 degrees holding that temperature down. We've cleared a little more quickly, but of course we've lost the peak heating of the day in Edinburgh at this point there. Edinburgh, for those folks that, that might be like, where's it at? And this is one of our locations where the North Mississippi Storm Chasers found a great camera that's going to be good for kind of catching some storms coming into the area there, kind of east and northeast of Carthage, southwest there of Louisville, southeast of Kosciuszko. A shot that's mostly clear at this point, coming in 86 degrees at this time on northeast winds at about 7 miles per hour. And appreciate your Weather Watcher pictures. One of the best we had from yesterday. Wanted to at least show one here. Regina in Bald with that mix of cloud cover. I know it's nice when it takes all day long and you finally get a little sunshine at sunset. Please, of course, if you're willing, share those Weather Watchers pictures with us like Regina did here. We love showing those here on the screen when we can. And so you can use the Mississippi Live Weather app, submit them right from there. Of course, you can also tag us on Facebook and all the different social media outlets in order to check those out as well. Okay, let's talk about the tropics. Our tropical satellite here does show Dexter. Now, we're looking basically out here a little bit farther into the Atlantic. So here's New York and Boston. This is not going to be an impact for anybody in the United States unless you're, for whatever reason, traveling out here into the Atlantic. Dexter with 40-mile-per-hour winds on it on the latest advisory at this point here. Expected to continue to track back toward the north and east over the next couple of days. As you can see, up to around 45-mile-per-hour winds. And it's a tropical storm officially, but we're looking here through Thursday morning, 9 a.m. You can see kind of the position. This is way out there to sea. And so that is an increase in intensity from where we're at now as it continues to track toward the north and east and away from land. It does get up as high as 60-mile-per-hour winds. But when you start getting way up here into the North Atlantic, the waters get fairly cold. You have some other factors helping to kind of pick up speed, because you can see how quickly, from Tuesday, this evening through, say, tomorrow afternoon, evening, it moves about, yay far there. But you start getting farther in there and you're moving more than twice that distance. So the jet stream starts picking it up, and the combination there of the shear with that starts to break it apart. And of course, the colder water helps to weaken it as well up there into the North Atlantic. So moving away from us, you can kind of see how that kind of gets picked up here, looking at atmospheric moisture, and that just kind of spins away as it eventually starts falling apart. Now, we do have a few waves of atmospheric moisture moving toward us, and that's one of the factors that will bring some slightly better chances for some tropical development eventually a little bit closer to our region in the extended forecast there. So we're looking at Sunday at a couple of areas that we're watching for the far extended forecast to get a little bit closer. So let's talk about those in more detail. First off, this is the zone we really start watching for tropical development during the August time period. Locations back out here, Central Atlantic, eventually toward locations around the Caribbean. So this is our zone where we see development, and August is one of our time periods where we expect to see more and more of those, and so they're likely to pass hurricanes typically through this zone in August. The Gulf really starts to continue to become a factor more and more as we go into September as well. Of course, those Gulf waters are getting a lot hotter. So let's look at where things line up at this point here. Of course, we do have an area out there in the far eastern Pacific. This zone typically does not produce weather that impacts us a lot, unless sometimes those tropical systems get up into some of the higher elevation in Mexico, kind of rip apart, and then maybe we get some of that moisture to funnel back toward us. But there are really two areas that we're looking out here into the Atlantic where development is a possibility. Let's kind of break those down. The first of those is the one that's a little bit closer to the lower 48 here. We're looking at about a 10% chance of this area we have developing into a tropical disturbance over the next 2 days, 40% over the next 7. The overall pattern here, again, we talked about the winds aloft. There's not a big, push in the jet stream that caused some issues, but this is more of a subtropical sort of disturbance, so it needs to be left alone a little bit. So confidence is not particularly high in development there, but certainly with the warm waters, it's an area that we're going to have to watch closely. And then the area that's a little farther out there, we're not expected to see development really in the next few days, but this zone out here farther into the Atlantic does become a more fertile ground really in that time period toward the end of the next week, to closer to really the next week and a half or so. Most indications are that system probably stays out here in the Atlantic. There's some projections, like we talked about last night, that get disturbances in the far extended forecast, looking really 2 weeks and beyond, closer to the lower 48. We'll see. Not high confidence level on those projections at this point. They've been all over the place over the last 24 hours. That's why it's a little too early to kind of hone in on that. But an area we're certainly going to be watching very, very closely, as we should this time of year, and of course encourage you to do that. You do have a tropical layer. We kind of look at some of this information in the Mississippi Live Weather app. Of course, that app free and available for all those different devices. Encourage you to download that app for iOS as well as Android devices. We absolutely appreciate all of you that have done that. Certainly that helps us here at Mississippi Live Weather to, of course, keep you safe. Make sure your friends and family know as well. Probably the easiest way to do that is to snap this screenshot, and when they ask, share it with them. Certainly as we go into severe weather season, that is more and more impactful and important. And so we appreciate all of you who are willing to support us in that way and do that. So as we leave you this evening, again, looking at Mississippi Live Weather Radar, we mainly for the most part are dry. A couple sprinkles back up in the northwest part of the state. I know that's probably something that a lot of folks would like to see more of. Unfortunately, these sort of showers up here, about as close as anything gets to most of us. So we are watching, of course, for you in South Haven and kind of putting a little loop on this here. You can see it just has not been a lot of motion on this as they're kind of drifting, and maybe the downer part of this when we look at accumulations really over, let's see here, the last 72 hours in our region. That's about as much as anybody has ended up seeing. So we continue dry and drought conditions, unfortunately, expanding. We appreciate you joining us here at 6 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, of course, we'll be looking at the latest on some of those extended rainfall chances and temperatures as we continue through a beautiful week. But thanks for joining us. We'll see you at 10.
You need some help?
Your tow chains are a little loose. Could spark a wildfire. I could show you how to secure them properly if you'd like.
Sure. Thanks a lot.
Anytime. You should check out SmokeyBear.com. They've got a bunch of tips on wildfire prevention.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Two milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.